All right, so today we have to start by talking a little bit more about the rail line or the proposed rail line from Alaska to Alberta. Justin Trudeau kind of hinted around a little bit yesterday. Um, Never really going too far, but my guess is that the federal government is going to do whatever they can do to block this. Do they have the power to do it? I'm not exactly sure. I mean, Canada's kind of messed up that way, but I mean, if the provinces want to do something like this, they should be able to do it. I don't. The federal government shouldn't be able to step in and say no, you can't. But my guess is that they probably will, and I do believe the federal government will do whatever it takes to shut this kind of stuff down because they are committed to destroying the resource and energy sector. Um, because they hate capitalism and they can't have any examples of capitalism working because again that's kind of the leftist philosophy in a nutshell. Why they hate competition so much is, I mean, this is the reason why they always want top down control, and this is why they want a massively centrally planned economy, in that they can't have alternatives, because if there's alternatives to compare to their ideas, and their ideas don't work. So that's why they constantly fight to have no alternatives to their ideas. I mean, you look at the teachers. I mean, most of them, they want to outright complete monopoly. Why is that? It's not because they're better. It's because they don't want the competition. They like their cushy six-figure salaries with 3 months off every year, and their full pensions. They love that, and the reason that they desperately fight against any competition is that they know that they're not worth as much as they're being paid, especially when you include the benefits. Now, does that say all teachers are the worst people in the world? No, absolutely not. It's just simply, I mean, some of them are really bad people, but most of them, I don't believe that's the case. The majority of them, they're simply responding to incentive. Like, human beings respond to incentive. The vast majority of human beings are neither naturally good nor naturally bad. They simply respond to incentives. And when you create a massive incentive for human beings to do the wrong thing, they will do it 95% of the time, no matter what political side you're on. And again, that's something that the left gets completely wrong, is that they genuinely believe that government corruption would just go away if we just had a only left wingers running the government. But again, it doesn't change anything. The same incentive is still there. That's what they get completely wrong. So anyway, yeah, when it comes to this, they're going to fight it because again, they want to destroy Alberta, and they, not necessarily Alberta itself, but the ideas that come out of Alberta. When you are a left-wing government, specifically a far-left government, the thing you fear the most and hate the most is alternatives and competition. That's what they hate the most, because they know that the alternatives and the competition are better than what they're proposing, which is why they, like I say, they fight tooth and nail to not have the competition. And people can deny that all they want. I really don't care. The fact of the matter is, if you actually believed in your policies, you'd be perfectly fine with competition, because if your policies were better than the other people's, then you would win when said competition happens, right? Like, if Alberta's ways of doing things were so much worse, then let them do it and let them fail. But what they're doing is they're not letting them do it, and basically giving them two options: either continue to fight with them and lose, because it's a battle where the feds are way more powerful than the provinces, so it's a losing battle; or two, just give in to socialism, right? And both the alternatives are, it's either you're screwed or you're screwed, and that's putting it as nicely as I possibly can. So anyway, that's the first thing I wanted to bring up. The next thing is a little more about Sweden. So this is something I've brought up before, but again, just more and more data is coming out to prove this, in that Sweden's mortality rate this year is actually slightly lower than the average. Again, so people think, oh, Sweden was a terrible way of doing things, but yet up until this point, they've had less people die than the average year. Like, again, like, these lockdowns are, still wanting lockdowns at this point is absolute insanity. Still wanting mask mandates at this point is absolute insanity. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because there's no need for it. And this is the problem. And here, I mean, like I say, the big problem with these kind of people that support the lockdowns and the mask mandates and all these regulations is that they, most of them at least, genuinely believe that there's a little to no downside to their propositions. Like, they genuinely believe that. And it's simply because they're so ignorant and live in such an echo chamber. It's not even funny, because again, we have double digit unemployment, suicide rates and depression are through the roof. many of these jobs are probably not going to come back. Like many of them are not going to come back. And not to mention too, many jobs, the ones that currently exist, aren't going to exist. I mean, you look at Alberta, we have the U of A is laying off a bunch of people. Syncrude is laying off a bunch of people. Again, and does it have anything to do with the provincial government and all these lefties saying, "Oh, it's if it wasn't for our stupid capital"? No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the governments are regulating industries out of business. Like the government's focus is should right now should be almost exclusively on how do we grow the economy. And by grow the economy, this is the other thing the left gets wrong: is, oh, you guys care about is your investments and the rich people getting rich. No, no, that's nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with the fact that we have double-digit unemployment. We are in a recession right now. I mean, we were almost in a recession even before this. This is the other thing people think too, that, oh, well, it'll be back to normal before you know it. But what they don't tell you is that we were within an inch of being in a recession even before going into that. I mean, you look at Q4 of 2019 and Q1 of 2020. We had no, I think we had like 0.1, 0.2% growth in Canada. Like again, we were literally within an inch of a recession before this whole situation. And we've lost massive amounts of jobs. And yet you still talk to people out there and like, oh, it's not that bad. There's plenty. No, no, things are not that good. Things are. And here's the thing: it's good for some people. It's not bad for everyone. But for too many people, it's not good. And Sweden's handled this very well. Now again, it's not like they've had the growth and like unemployment's gone down. I don't even know what. I think their growth is pretty negligible. But we had negative growth. Like we had. I mean, you look at North Dakota. I believe they actually did have positive growth. So again, the lockdowns do not work. Anything other than very minor restrictions are absolutely pointless at this point. But the cases probably are going to stay up for the next little while because the government's hell bent on um, regulating things and having more lockdowns and all this kind of garbage. So, anyway, the next thing to bring up is from Dean Skoriko, responding to CBC here, saying the virus may delay Liberal pledge to end long-term boil water advisories on First Nations. Now, again, the first thing being is that the Liberals have been in power for going on 5 years now. Like, using the pandemic as an excuse for this is absolute insanity. And here's the thing: how hard is it to send out some water filters? Like these things, I mean, you can get a decent water filter you can hook up to your tap for like 200-300 bucks. Like, I don't understand why is it now. Again, everything with government is more confusing than it needs to be because there's a million regulations. The vast majority of them are pointless, but I understand things are more confusing. But again, it can't be that hard to send out some water filters. Like, it really can't. Like, it really can't. And I don't even think it would cost that much. Like I say, 200-300 bucks a pop. You got to change the filters once every year or so. Like, it can't be that confusing. But here's the thing: I think it's something they're probably waiting for next election to kind of run on. That, oh, we're gonna help out the First Nations because we care about them so long, knowing that most of their voter base is too stupid to remember that they've been promising it for over half a decade now. Like again, that's the problem: is that the majority of the electorate is too stupid to recognize the campaign promises they made. They can run on the same things over and over again. They can run on Canada being this systemically racist country, even though they've been in power for like I say, going on 5 years, going on six. Again, it's just pure insanity. And the last thing to bring up is from Dan McTeague, and he says the Liberal clean fuel standard will increase the cost of home heating by 60%, drive up the price of fuel another 13 cents a liter, cost 30,000 jobs, remove 22 billion in capital in Canada, and cost each and every worker an additional $440 every year. Again, am I 100% sure on these numbers? No. But the one thing I do know is that this new carbon tax or clean fuel standard, whatever it is they want to call it, is going to increase the cost of heating your house. That's going to increase it by definition. It's going to increase the cost of fuel. It will cost people jobs because a lot of these businesses, their margins are so low that it's either raise prices and risk losing customers or lose money, right? And if they lose money, they're going to lose workers. And if they lose customers, they're going to have to lay people off, right? So it's a lose-lose scenario for a lot of businesses. And not to mention too, like if you're a foreign government or a foreign, some rich guy, and you're looking to invest your money somewhere, why in the world would you invest it somewhere where it's going to be artificially more expensive? I mean, you look at foreign investment between Canada and the States when it came to the energy sector, even the whole virus thing has nothing to do with it either, in that the States was getting more investment per cat or per, I don't know if you want to call it per capita, than Canada was, even though the dollar is 25 to 30 cents cheaper in Canada. So you can invest 25% cheaper in Canada, and people still didn't want to do it on average. So again, that just speaks volumes to just how bad um, things are in Canada right now. And again, the problems are only going to get worse because the government is hell bent on doubling down. The left never admits they're wrong. They will never admit they're wrong. For all we know, I mean, gas prices could be $10 a liter, and yet I don't even think that it would maybe change only a handful of people's minds. Like, again, like this is the problem, that most people are so ignorant that they will hold the same positions no matter what, and they will never change their minds. So again, prepare for more craziness when it comes to this. So anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. If you liked it, make sure you get that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on Twitter, especially, but also BitChute and Parler as YouTube and Twitter backups. And like I say, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more.